Perhaps you should have our war tomorrow when you're better rested. I should have you whipped for your impudence.
Perhaps you should fight him.
Achilles. Achilles. Look at the men's faces. You can save hundreds of them. You can end this war with a swing of your sword. Think how many songs they'll sing in your honor. Let them go home to their wives.
Imagine a king who fights his own battles. Wouldn't that be a sight?
Of all the warlords loved by the gods, I hate him the most.
We need him, my king.
For now.
Back to Troy for a moment. So
yeah,
Peter O'Toole's giving him shit because of his heritage, and the rest of the cast, that's a fully loaded cast.
Unbelievable cast. Yes, they were everybody wonderful. I Brian Cox played Agamemnon in that movie, and I have long admired Brian Cox. My wife and I had seen him on stage in several different shows, several different plays. I had seen him, the first time I remember seeing him in a movie was a British film, Hidden Agenda, about events going on in Belfast in Northern Ireland, the whole thing, the Irish Troubles. And he was just great in that movie. He was wonderful. And so when he came to Warner Brothers, he did 2 movies during my tenure, or 3. He did 3 movies during my tenure there. He did the first one was a Steven Seagal movie, The Glimmer Man. You remember that? And
yes, they called it The Girdle Man. The crew called it The Girdle Man behind the scenes, of course. That was before I worked with Seagal. But
that was one of the movies where they actually had a position in the budget. I mean, they got a person, but it was in the budget for the chin light. Okay, where they attached the.
This is real, people. This chin light thing is real. Oh my god!
They attached a like a Twinkie light, a small fill light underneath the lens of the camera. Okay, to fill in, because Stephen was always kind of jowly, but he was taking on a double chin, and or it gave the appearance of taking on a double chin. Because when you would be with him on the set or outside of the camera was picking up a double chin. Mm-hmm. When you saw him in real life, he didn't appear to have one. So it was actually kind of funny. But so they had to put in more fill here to fill so that it wouldn't look so much like a double chin.
I would love to talk about Seagal. He's one of our favorites. We both worked with him. But before we go down that rabbit hole and start talking about fake scripts written by William Shakespeare that Seagal co-wrote and all that mischief, get back to Brian Cox. So movie number 1 was
Glimmer Man, then Troy, and then we did another one with him up in Canada. I can't remember the name of it. It was a really bad one of those Bel Air type. It wasn't from Bel Air, but it was maybe it was that company that came after them.
It'd be a step down if it was Bel Air, probably.
Yeah, it was. But as I said, my wife and I had seen him on stage many times.
Right.
And he wrote books. He did Salem to Moscow, about taking Shakespeare plays through Russia on a tour and the experience, what it was like, and meeting the Russian people and hanging out with them all. And then he did another book on something else that had to do with that. They were acting type books,
Right.
And Steven Berkoff, it was the same deal. Steven Berkoff did a couple of movies at Warner Brothers, and he had written these books on, and I'm, I came through the theater, so I gravitate towards that. We belong to the Amundsen and Broadway and Hollywood and all that. We're always at, the stage shows all the time. So, but anyway, when Glimmerman was in production, I took one of those books from Brian Cox over to the stage to get him to sign it. And as I'm walking to stage 16, I can see him out on the road, the west side of the stage where the logo is next to Building 36, that road that goes in between them. And I can see him out there, and I'm going, great. I don't have to go on the stage and do this in front of anybody and disturb anything. He's outside. That means he's not, I won't get into his head in his production. This is just great. And as I'm getting closer and closer, I can hear his voice. And eventually I get close enough that he's actually screaming at somebody on the phone. He's having this conversation on the phone. And I knew this was not the time. This was not the time to get him to sign the book. So
observant.
Fast forward to Troy, where Mark Solomon and I went down to Cabo, where they did the exteriors for the Battle of Troy, the siege of Troy. And a lot of people were staying at a resort there. So we kind of were put there. We only stayed a few days on that trip. But there's Brian Cox in the lobby, and I'm going, oh man, I forgot to bring a book. Oh, I didn't think of it. Oh. But then he comes through and he goes over to the concierge, and it's the same thing. It's this angry guy yelling at the concierge at the hotel. And I don't know what it was about. I have no idea what it was about, but it was like, geez, I sure can pick the moments, can I?
Or the moments to avoid. I remember him as Hannibal Lecter in Manhunter for Michael Mann.
Oh, yeah.
That's where I first saw him. I can't claim that Cox has ever been one of my favorites, but he's definitely a respectable talent. And he was good in that role, even though, he was surrounded by great actors. Julian Glover. There was a lot of great actors in those scenes with him for him to play off of. And, I'm sorry he was angry, because had you actually presented your book, he might have said, oh, I'm in a better mood now. Look, someone has bought my book. This is wonderful. You, Mr. Concierge, should also buy this book. In fact, order a few. You can make this up to me.
Your road to redemption is paved with tombstones. No quarter, kill all masters. Go to noquarterkillallmasters.com. Rated R.